Hey guys, Max here, and in this video I want to talk about how to legally reduce or completely eliminate your tax burden as a non-resident of countries like Canada or Australia, European countries, these types of countries. So I guess the first thing, it's gonna be a longer video because there's a lot to talk about, and I get so many people asking me about this stuff. So I think that I'll just start off the video and then go into a story of my whole journey on learning about this stuff. And after that, I'll give you some actionable tips that I've learned by spending hundreds of hours reading about this stuff, hiring some very, very expensive consultants, and I'll just give that all away for you for free. So if you're interested in that, keep on listening, and I think you'll get some great insights. So also, the first thing I want to say is I am in no way a tax specialist or accountant or any expert for that matter, so you should take this content solely for its entertainment value, and I'm not responsible for any of whatever you do with this information. So I just want to point that out there, so especially that this area can be very complex depending on where you're living, so that's a biggie. All right, so I guess starting my story, I kind of moved out of Canada in 2015. I went on a vacation in Thailand in the middle of the year, and I just decided to stay there. So I ended up staying in Thailand for a year and a half, so all the way to 2017. And then while I was living there, I remember my first introduction to this whole new world of the offshore universe was when I sat with a friend from the Netherlands, a friend I met in Chiang Mai in Thailand. And this guy his name was Balke, and he sat down with me and he started saying like, hey man, like I got this company, like where's your company? And he's like, my company is in Seychelles. And I'm like, what the fuck is Seychelles? And he's like, oh yeah, some little island, I don't recall, like the Pacific Ocean or something like that. And he was like, yeah, so I'm kind of struggling to have a bank account now for my Seychelles company, and I'm now a non-resident of my country, so I don't really pay taxes there. And I'm like, and I started talking, I just drilling in with questions, because I was like, man, this is like a new world that just opened to me. I was like, what are you talking about? How come your business is not in your home country, and how come you don't pay taxes in your home country? And this guy started talking, so I started reading a shitload about all that stuff. So the first thing I did and I realized is like, wow, my company can be a separate entity for me, and it doesn't need to be in my home country. So that's the first thing I did. I started a year. I spent a year like researching where are the best countries to have an internet-only business, and I emphasize internet only because this won't usually work as well if you have like a basis of operation somewhere. But and then I just decided on Hong Kong. So I found that Hong Kong was a good place, and more on that later. It might not be as good as a place today, but at that time I thought it was a great place. So I set up my company there. So I was like, oh yeah, man, like fucking amazing. I got everything I need. I got a company in Hong Kong, and I don't spend most of the year in Canada, so like I'm good. I'm a non-resident of Canada, and my company is offshore. But little did I realize that that was only the start, okay? Because what I've learned after is like the company, where your company is, doesn't really matter as much as having an actual bank account for that company, And it would sound very simple to someone that has never opened a company, but when you open a company offshore, what you soon realize is that it's much harder to get a bank account than open the actual company, especially in places like Hong Kong. So what I soon realized was that, okay, I might not even be able to open a bank account in Hong Kong. So basically what I ended up doing is I had to open a subsidiary for that company in the US and open a bank account for that company in the US. So again, more on that later on how to set that up, but that was another discovery of mine. And then I soon realized too that after like having that kind of whole business setup, I was like, okay, now my business has a bank account, my business has a complete structure, it's kind of legit, now. So I was like, well, now how about my personal taxes? Because when you have a business, you act as an owner of that entity, but also an employee of that entity, like a director or something like that, and you get a salary, and then that salary, if it's like $100,000 a year or something like that, then you have to pay personal taxes on that. But if you don't live in your home country, where do you pay taxes on that? So in Canada, I realized that to be a non-resident of my country, there was kind of 3 levels of things I needed to do. First level was not spend more than 6 months in Canada. That was the first thing. The second thing was not own any major property or have any dependents of mine in the country. So I don't have a wife or kids, but if I had a wife or kids, I would have had to bring them out of the country. And then anything like a home or like a car or any of those big possessions, I had to sell, So kind of did that with my apartment. I just leased out my apartment to someone else, and that did the trick. And then the third level was about all the small stuff, which I'm still kind of cleaning out. But if you think about it, to be a fully non-resident of Canada, if you want to be on the safer side of things, you need to actually not have a bank account, not have health insurance. Now I have my private health insurance. Ideally not have a driver's license, not have affiliations to any clubs, social clubs or anything. Ideally not have any minor possessions, like a motorbike or like as little as possible stuff in your home country. And I'll more on that later. But that's basically another thing I had to do to like kind of free myself up a little bit. And that's not an easy process, because if you want to shut down your personal bank account in a place like Canada, well, you better have another one someone else, And now it's just not just the bank account; it's the actual credit cards too. So how do you get credit cards in like I don't know, the U.S. or some other place if you don't have any credit history there? So that's another challenge. So anyway, like this whole story brings me to like now, which is 3 years later, which now I feel like my shit is a lot more figured out. Okay, so I'll give you some. I want to give you some tips on how to accomplish that journey if you want to do that. First thing you should ask yourself is it really worth it for me? Okay, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of worrying, it's a lot of sacrifices you need to make. So the first thing I would ask is a very obvious question: is do you make more than, I would say, $80,000 in personal income in Canada, or in whatever country you're in? Like United States don't apply because United States is a different tax system. But most Australia, Canada, European countries, at $80,000 a year, you're probably going to end up paying like $30,000 in taxes or $25,000 in taxes. Which, in my opinion, that's where it starts to be worth it to think about this. The second thing would be is, do you have an internet-only business? Can your internet be operated from anywhere without an actual office with actual employees? Like, you can have inventory, you can have, but actual humans working full-time for you, not in your home country. Is that possible? You need to ask that to yourself, because that creates a tax liability. And then another thing is, like, the obvious question is, do you want to live outside of your home country and actually live outside? Like I'm talking like most of the year not be in your home country and not have a house there. Like when you go back, you have to do Airbnb. It's like you're a tourist in your home country. Do you want to live that lifestyle? So you need to ask these 3 questions very seriously, because these are gonna, like, if you get into this stuff that I'm gonna start talk about, this is a lot of work, and it will only pay off long term if you make a good amount of money. and you like the lifestyle of living outside of your home country. So if the answer is a resounding yes to all of these questions, yes, I make enough money, yes, I don't want to be in my home country anyway, and my business allows me, has the structure to do that, then I can share about steps to how to do that. What are the major steps. So I'll just talk for Canada. It's in my opinion generally similar for any of the Western countries that have a residential tax-based system. So the first step is to figure out your company stuff, because you're an independent entity from your company, and if you don't have that, you're basically, that's the first thing you absolutely need to figure out is your company needs to be a separate entity of you based on bank accounts, the legal entity, pretty much everything. You need to have a solid corporate structure, and then if you want to legally avoid taxes, then you should set up that structure in a country that has low tax, or no tax. For example, a place like Hong Kong has 16.5% tax, but it's a residential system for companies. So if you make your money outside of Hong Kong, then you pay zero tax, which makes a lot of sense. So that's why Hong Kong, and then Hong Kong is a first-tier jurisdiction. So Hong Kong is kind of cool, but the problem with Hong Kong is that bank accounts are fucking impossible to open. Like, unless you get an introduction or you pay $2,000 to some agency to open a bank account, in my opinion, you probably won't get a bank account in Hong Kong very soon. So now you're gonna have to think about maybe some different model. And so for company bank with an easy bank account, I recommend looking into Stuart Patton has helped me greatly in the last 1 or 2 years with my corporate setup. And if you look it up online, you'll find him, Stuart Patton, and he's got a website called ustax.bz. And the reason it's so good is because he's an actual U.S. citizen, that is an actual expat that lives in Belize, but he's a licensed U.S. tax attorney. So he actually knows his stuff compared to all the little gurus that have like a high school degree out there, including me, so that's why you shouldn't listen to me like for final advice. But someone like Stuart can really help you out on that. So I do recommend Stuart, because he has a nice, he recommends a very nice structure, which is basically having an offshore company combined with a U.S. LLC, which allows you to bank in the U.S. without paying much taxes anywhere. So I do recommend him for that, for your corporate setup. In general, another tip is don't cheap out on the legal services, because if you follow the rule of making enough money for this to be worth it, you should also not cheap out on legal services. So whatever it is, setting up a corporate structure, opening up a bank account, stuff like that, you should always be willing to shell out like $1,000 or $2,000 to have a good attorney do that for you, so that it's 100% legal, so it's 100% well made. But mostly it saves you the hassle and time. Yes, the only thing with Stuart is you might have to travel to the U.S. to open a bank account, which you probably should do anyway. Yeah, so that's for the company and corporate bank account. As for the credit cards, I recommend, if you're in Australia or Canada or some European countries, I do recommend setting up, at least start getting an American Express credit card on a personal level. Because if you have an American Express card, that's a very little known trick. But if you have an American Express card and you start using that card in your own country and you have a good credit file, then you can they have a program called the Global Transfer Program. And so you can get a credit card in somewhere like the US. Because if you have a bank account and no credit history in the US, you won't get a credit card. And it's basically like starting to get credit like you're 15 years old. So very tough. So that it took me like a year to find that out, so that little tip right there, it's great, it's amazing. Especially if you have a company that spends a lot in advertising like me, put that all in the Amex, it's amazing, you get a lot of points and stuff, so it's good. That's cool. So that's kind of the more on the corporate side. On the personal side, I would say like you should not underestimate the amount of work you have, because most kind of digital nomads or people that are expat, like even startup founders that want to expatriate themselves from their home country, most of these people underestimate the amount of work to be truly a non-resident. Okay. But the basic rule is, going back to these 3 levels of stuff you need to do, like in terms of not being in the country, not having major dependencies, and all the minor stuff as well, like driver's license, health insurance, and all that stuff. First thing you need to do is cut all those ties from your home country, right? And then the second thing you need to do is actually build some ties somewhere else, because that's something I've been learning in the past year or so, is that you are in a very weak position in terms of facing the revenue tax agency of your home country if you don't have any ties in your home country, and then you but also you don't have any ties anywhere else. So like, because basically the reasoning of a residential based taxation system, what I've learned is that for example, you can say that, well, I don't have any ties to my home country. But then it's like they're going to ask you, well, where else are your ties? Where else do you have residential ties? And then what are you going to say? Well, I spent 3 months in Bali this year, and I spent another 3 months in Colombia, and I booked on Airbnb my stuff, and it's like, well, you don't have any ties nowhere, right? So then you get into what's called tiebreaker rules. So countries like Canada have rules to say like how to judge, because they have tax treaties with so many countries. So let's say like they're gonna say like, okay, so now we need to evaluate where you're a resident of. So basically what they're gonna go through, they're gonna be like, okay, where's your home? Well, you don't have a home in Canada, and you don't have a home nowhere else. So let's move to level 2. So the level 2 is maybe, well, what's the second biggest tie after the home? Well, then it's probably like economic activity. I think that's what it is, but I'm not sure, but I think that's what it is. So they're going to look at, okay, so you don't have no home nowhere, so let's look at economic activity. Where else do you have bank accounts? And if you have bank accounts in Canada, then you're probably going to be like, well, I have my bank accounts in Canada, but I don't have any bank accounts nowhere else. They're going to be like, oh, well, then you have more economic activity in Canada, so you're probably going to be a tax resident for this year. Congratulations. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to say, like, for me, the last 2 years, it's been, like, basically just time after time realizing that what I thought was being non-resident was just not it, you know? So, like, most digital nomads or like expatriates or startup founders that travel a lot, that I see them, they're like, they wouldn't even have a bank account somewhere else, you know? So to truly be a tax non-resident of your home country and be in a secure position, you know, you need to not have ties in your home country at all, and you need to have ties somewhere else. Have an apartment in fucking Thailand or whatever country you want, you know, have an apartment there, actually leave your stuff there, you know, like have someplace somewhere else that you can show proof of, and keep all these documents to show that you have a lease there and you have all that stuff there, right? And then if you want to be really on the safe side, well, you get a great personal tax firm, you know, in your home country that can help you with that. And there's a lot of them, but yeah. And also get a tax determination from whatever tax agency. Like go and ask your accountant, I want to have an official determination of residency status from my government, so that they can tell me, am I a tax non-resident or not, right? Because even if you do all I said and you don't have that official determination from your government, you're still kind of hoping that everything is going to turn out to be all right. You know, you're still kind of in that hoping mode, whereas you think, oh, I hope I'm going to fly under the radar and they're not going to come back to me and ask me for all that back tax I'm owing. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna stop that video right there because it's getting to 20 minutes. But I guess those are some of the lessons I learned, and this will apply again to most of you if you're like resident of Western country, excluding the United States, and you're willing to expatriate yourself from your home country, and you think it's worth it for yourself. So yeah, just keep in mind that there's a lot of work involved in getting there, especially if you do a lot of stuff yourself. If you kind of outsource it and you pay the right amount of money for the right services, it'll make life much easier for yourself. But there's a lot of complexity. It's not like this. It's not going to be like most people would like to think, where it's like you're a prisoner of tax in your home country, and you're gonna step out and be free in the world of no tax nowhere and not having to do anything. It doesn't work like that. It's more like, in my opinion, it's more like it's more like a 40-60% trade-off, where you'll pay a least amount of tax, but you'll have a lot more hassle in your life, and you'll have a lot more things to do, and you'll have a little bit more worrying about these things, and yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of efforts, and you gotta determine, is this something I'm committed? Is it the lifestyle I'm committed to do for the next 5 or 10 years of my life? Or do I actually prefer paying a little bit of tax in my home country? Because if you set up if you set up your tax right in your home country, you can pay very little tax and have a great lifestyle. That's some other thing I'm realizing now, is that, for example, you can pay yourself, like if you live, for example, in Canada, and you pay yourself $80,000 a year, maybe you'll pay like $25,000-$30,000 a year in tax. But then it's like you can have a company car. For example, you have a U.S. corporation, you can have a company car, right? And so that your car is paid by your company by pre-tax dollars. So you don't pay tax on that. You don't have to take that out of your personal revenue. Another thing is, you can have your company pay 50% of your apartment. So that's another tax saving strategy. So then you have $80,000 a year discretionary income to pay for half of an apartment and pretty much everything else you need in life. And to me, that's plenty to have a great lifestyle, So, and then in terms of your actual company, well, with companies with great tax planning, you can defer tax forever, So if you're okay with not having unlimited personal income, and just being smart about your company and personal taxes, I think you can do great by being a tax resident of your own country and still traveling. So I guess, yeah, the last thing I want to emphasize is, it's not like this trade-off. I think the offshore gurus, they want to tell you like that this is, it's the greatest thing ever to be a tax non-resident of your country. But it actually isn't necessarily. It really depends on your personal situation. So yeah, I guess that's the last one I wanted to point out. For some people, the best decision might be to just decide from the start, I'm actually not going to do anything at all to cut my ties with my home country. I'm just going to keep paying taxes there and keep benefiting from all the benefits I'm getting there, and yeah, not have to worry about all this stuff. So that might be a great choice based on your personal own situation. So anyway, I wanted to do this video for a while, so fuck it if it's 25 minutes, but I have so many of my friends ask me these questions, so I wanted to share a little bit of that. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, because I think at the time of this video I have like 5 subscribers. I'd love to have maybe like 10. That would be great. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe, and if you like this video, share it with your friends as well, your family, your grandma. If she wants to become an expat, that'd be great. So, all right. Peace out, guys. Talk soon.